All right, what's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be covering the platform that the majority of coaches, especially Division One programs, are using to recruit junior golfers. Now, I want to be very clear when I'm making this video. This is not the only thing that a coach is going to consider. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into it: grades, attitude, a lot of stuff goes into this, right? But the reason that I put such an emphasis on the reason I'm going to be talking about this tool is because this is kind of like that first check, right? Yeah, maybe you could fail this, and maybe if everything else is exceptional, you can get over that hump. But it's not a very good, strategy, right? In the same way, if you're going to apply to Harvard, you want to know that you need a 4.0. It's just kind of like just a baseline there, right? If you don't have that, to some degree, you're going to come off as a little bit, not serious. And it's just there's not a high probability you're going to be able to even get your foot in the door, right? So this is kind of like that first step. And again, could you get into Harvard with a 3.5? Yeah, I'm sure somebody's done it, but I'm guessing that in exceptional circumstances. And if you're trying to be successful in anything, it's usually not a great bet to plan to be the exception, right? So even those who do end up being the exception, they weren't necessarily planning on that. And even if you can point to one person who's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the exception, they pulled it off. You're talking about somebody who's like one in millions, right? And so usually it's just not a great strategy to use there. So anyway, the site that I'm showing you right now is called Junior Golf Scoreboard. And the reason there's so many reasons why this site is very useful. Obviously for college coaches, it's also very useful for a junior golfer. Hopefully your child's a junior golfer, and you're watching this video. Number one is the largest ranking index, right? So you might have heard of stuff like AJGA. AJGA is a lot more narrow. Obviously, you probably know it's very difficult to get into AJGA events, and even the other non-AJGA events that do count for rankings points. Those are all very, very high level events. Not to say that they should be neglected, but this is just to say pretty much everything that's going to be ranked by AJGA will also be ranked by Junior Golf Scoreboard, but it's not necessarily true in the reverse. So this platform is great, especially for kids like 10 and up. Like you're going to be able to get a lot of value out of them being ranked, aside from like obviously, and we'll kind of go over this together. It's essentially a billboard for college coaches when they're trying to do their research. But even beyond that, it helps your child do a lot of mapping. As far as like where they're at right now and where they need to get to, and how much time they realistically have, which does a lot in long term for setting expectations. Also helps a lot for mindset. It's one of the most neglected things that I see for people who struggle with mindset is a lot of the time we have way too much emphasis on an individual tournament or an individual round of golf. And if you can help a child who's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old recognize that they've got years ahead of them and also help quantify that for them so they understand where they need to be year over year, quarter over quarter, has a tremendously positive impact on just like their overall like mental well-being around golf. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the video. I will also say, if you guys enjoy this video, go ahead and leave a like. It does help push it out to the algorithm. And if you enjoy this type of content of helping junior golfers play Division One golf, go ahead and subscribe to the channel because we come out with stuff like this every week. So anyway, this is the first page I want to draw your attention to. It's rankings and honors, college signings. And this shows for boys and girls, every player is recruited back into 2017. So it's pretty extensive. This is the most comprehensive, especially for Division One golf. It's a little bit less comprehensive for Division Two and Division Three. Now, for that one person who's going to say, "Oh, well, D2 and D3 are just as good and sometimes better than Division One," sure. Are there exceptional D2 and D3 programs? Yes. Are there bad D1 programs? Absolutely. But for the most part, D1's the best. Hopefully, that's kind of obvious already. But I just know somebody's going to say that. Anyway, this shows us where the player was ranked in their class. It shows what their scoring differential was. Scoring differential is just kind of a way of saying that if you shoot 72 at 7,000 yards, it's better than if you did it at 6,000 yards. And then we also have the program that recruited them. So if you're like, hey, my child wants to go to UCLA, what does it take? Well, it's like, okay, we can sort by school and say, scroll all the way down to UCLA and say, okay, well, you recruited a kid who's negative 4.22 and negative 6.69. Okay, cool. So if you want to go to UCLA, probably want to be -5 or better, right? Like that's kind of a good range to kind of aim for. Also looks like, in this case, we got a Hawaii kid and a California kid. So maybe they're not quite as biased on location. Some coaches, just to disclose, some coaches will only recruit international kids. It just kind of is what it is, right? And long story short, we want to be able to, this data is all accessible to us and we want to know that ahead of time. And if we need to reach out to coaches, we say, hey, I'm here, and typically I see you guys only recruit from international, right? I just want to reach out and let you know that, number one, that I exist, and if there's anything that I can do to help move over that needle. Once you get to that point, which is like hopefully not when you guys are watching this, that's more so for like junior year and forward when you can communicate with coaches. But I digress. Anyway, tremendously valuable. I'll go ahead and pull up girls for you guys as well. Pretty similar range. So let's just look at top 100 for girls, negative 2.46. Let's look at top 100 for boys. Boys a little bit better. Yeah, 2.8 or 3.82. So boys are about a shot better on average comparatively to girls. Which should make sense because there's obviously more boys that are playing golf than girls. So the competition is a little bit steeper. Anyway, once we've got that, let's go ahead and jump on over here. And let's just look at the class of 2027, which is all of our juniors right now. So if you're a coach, kind of think about it like this. This exists. And you want to recruit kids, obviously, in their junior year right now. A lot of these kids haven't technically committed. I will say a lot of them have. Like Miles, I believe, is going to Florida State. Anyway, they just don't have it like officially marked here, but there's a lot of verbal commitments. We got Charlie Woods here. But you can see all these players who, they've got their ranking, right? They've got their scoring differential, which is 65% of the overall ranking, right? And that's going to, determine a lot of this. And so we can also look at, what tournaments are these players playing in? We see a lot of AJGA. We see some of the bigger invitational events. To be clear, not everything that's an invitational is technically a big event. Sometimes I just use that term to make it sound cool. We're typically going to see a scoring average somewhere between 72 and 74. Again, this player is a little bit under that. But they're also playing some shorter golf courses, and that's going to be the rationale for that. One of the things that's also really cool is we can see how fast this player is improving. Now, this isn't generally accessible, so you probably won't be able to do this on your end. But it kind of helps us understand what's a reasonable pace of improvement. This player improved a lot over this last year. They went from -1 to -5. Obviously, that's huge. That's 4 shots. That's a ton, right? Let's look at the year prior to that for them. They went from 2.3 to, so they improved by about 3.3 shots the year prior to that. So obviously they hit something here. But anyway, as a coach, you can kind of see it's just like, hey, I've got a leaderboard here of all sorts of great players that I can recruit. Let's continue on here. Anyway, you can kind of see what we're looking at here. I'm just going to pick another one. Again, we kind of see players hovering around the 72 to 74 scoring average. It'll be 74 when the golf courses are longer on average. So, it's like 6,600 yards. The more of these are 7,000, then you might see the scoring average a little bit higher at the same scoring differential. You're also going to see a lot, once again, of AJGA. We've got a smattering of other stuff in here as well. And, again, that's typically what you're going to see. And hopefully this kind of makes sense of just like how easy this is for a coach to be like, okay, we've got some really high level players. And, if your child's in a position where it's like, let's say they're a scratch golfer, let's say they're shooting, 75 or 76 in tournaments that are, 6,500 yards for the context of boys, maybe 5,800 yards for the context of girls. You can kind of see here where it's like, it's just not that appealing for a coach, especially if you're not ranked. It's just like, I've got so many options, like scoring average 73, a little bit, longer golf courses on average. So we got some shorter ones, but, this is like the junior PGA, in their state. Got the Bubba Conway, which is a huge one, a bunch of AJGA. You guys kind of get the picture here. If you're a coach, you really, are kind of spoiled for choice here. And so what you want to do with that, I'll pull up Charlie Woods again, just back on the topic of annual progression, because I always like to compare Charlie to what I do. So Charlie is at 5.49. Last October, he was at 1.48. So he's improved by about 4 shots as well. The year prior to that, he's improved by, let's see here. He improved by about 3 shots the year prior to that. So anyway, long story short, that's kind of what you can expect for that's elite level. I mean, this is like, kid's dad is the GOAT, right? So, that's, and again, 73 scoring average, pretty difficult tournaments on average compared to some of the other ones that we've seen. So even though he has this higher scoring average, because these golf courses are longer and harder on average, his ranking overall is a lot better, right? So anyway, the key here is to really to get your child into that position. And here's the cool part about this. I just kind of outlined to you like, hey, if you get into this range, like coaches are going to reach out to you. And so let me just kind of pull up an example of one of the students that I worked with this past year who is in that exact spot. So you can see right now he's got a scoring differential of -2 here, scoring average of 73. Again, bunch of AJGA, longer golf courses. And I'll just pull up the message he shot me literally June 15th of his sophomore year, which is when you can technically reach out to kids. Let's go ahead here. All right, boom. So as you can see, he's got the Oregon State, head coach reaching out to him literally like as soon as they can be reached out to. And, just so you guys know this isn't kind of like a one-off event, I'll just pull up another student that I work with as well and go to the exact same day range here. So I reached out to him. I was like, hey, June 15th. He's like, yeah, I've got a number of programs. Arizona was one of them. We talked about this more so. He was ranked a little bit better. He was around like a -2.8, and I can show you the guys that in a second here. He had Clemson, Stanford, Cal Poly, like a lot of really great, programs there. And like I said, I'll just pull this up for you guys as well. So -2.87 for him. And so, hopefully you guys can kind of see where it's just like, if you're able to get into that position, it's just a complete game changer. And this is also true for girls as well. And so why is this so important? Just like to kind of zoom out, make sure you guys have something that's actionable. Here is, if you know that you need to get here, right? And getting here has certain criteria, right? Scoring an average of 72-ish, playing longer golf courses, certain scoring differential. Let's say your child's at, wherever they're at today. Let's say they're in 8th grade and they've got a scoring differential of, 4. You want to be able to look at that and say, hey, what's the pace that we need to be on in order to get to this -4, -2, -6, whatever their goal is for whatever program that they want to go to, which again, you can go back to the other page I showed you and like determine that, right? But once we've got that information, say, okay, cool, I need to improve by 12 shots over the next 3 years, right? At least we have that clarity, right? Or hey, we need to improve by 6 shots over the next 3 years, or whatever the case is. When I work with students, the average player improves by about 4 shots per year. Right now it's trending a little bit higher, but I also like to be very conservative in what I talk about as far as like average performance. To be frank, I've got one student right now. He's improving by a shot per month. It's ridiculous, but I would never set that expectation as like, oh, that's what's going to happen for your child if you decide to work with me. So it's just important to understand. It's like, hey, if you got an 8th grader and they've got a scoring differential, let's say 7, right? Like we can just do simple math. We got 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. Ideally, we want to be in position by June 15th, sophomore year. So let's say 8th, 9th, 10th, right? We've got 3 years ahead of us. Let's say they've got a scoring differential of 7, right? So we're going to go 7 minus 4, minus 4, minus 4. It's going to have us at a -5 scoring differential by their sophomore year. And that's just kind of like an on average estimate, right? It could be better, it could be worse. Every player is different, but it allows you to at least have some clarity. Because let's say you go from 7 to 1 in a year or something like that, which I have had students do. Then you can say, okay, cool, we're ahead, right? Everyone relaxes. You're going to be like, all right, we're good. We still need to know what to do next. Right? Like tournaments are going to change. The things we're going to need to improve in the game are going to be a little bit different. Obviously, let's say you're shooting 80, you go to shooting 73. The opportunities in your game are very different. You might have cut out some 3 putts. You might hit a few more greens, but you're going to have different problems. You're trying to go from 73 to 72 or 72 to 71. Or you're trying to substantially increase the distance so you can play the 7,200-yard golf courses, or for the girls, the 6,000-yard golf courses, right? So those are all things to consider, but you're able to see this clearly rather than just going out there, taking lesson after lesson after lesson and just hoping it pays off the next tournament and then crossing your fingers and hoping that some coach sees this. So, as far as, I hope you guys are clear on this. Got 2 options for you if you want more help. Obviously, you can just stick around, watch all the videos on the channel. I do my best to go through all this stuff. But nothing beats actually having somebody just tell you literally what to do. So I've got 2 options below here. Number 1, if you're in a position where you're like, hey, this sounds great, but it also sounds like there's a lot of stuff going on. To some degree there is. And you want somebody to guide you through. You want me to guide you through your child through on what they need to do as far as getting ranked, what they need to do as far as improving, what their practice needs to look like, how to track their statistics, all the stuff that they need to focus on and make sure that they have support, literally 24/7. If that's something you're interested in, there's an application below. Fill it out. And then if your child's in a position where I can help them, then you'll be able to schedule a call on my calendar and we'll go over it together, make sure it makes sense. If you're not quite there, right, because working with me, that's it's a little bit more intensive. You're just looking at this, you're just like, I don't even know how to get ranked, right? It's like, I don't know what to do. Then there's another link below as well that will give you my tournament selection framework. So this is the exact training that I give. It's literally like this one right here, how to make your tournament schedule. It's about an hour long. This is literally what I give all the students that work with me, at the highest level. And so you guys are able to pick that up for $147. I want to be very clear. That's not me personally like picking out all the tournaments for you. There's no way that I could justify, that time and interchange and all that stuff. It's going to show you what to do, which is going to be more valuable anyway. Because number one, you're not going to be dependent on me to do this for you forever, right? You're going to understand how to do it. You're going to be able to do it dynamically all the way into the future, right? So if you've got a 12-year-old or something like that, like you're going to know how to do their tournament schedule. You're going to know how to make sure that they're playing in ranked events. You're going to have clarity on like, hey, we've got a scoring differential of 11. And we've had that scoring differential of 11 for the last 6 months and we're not improving. We need to do something to get this to move faster. For context, just so you guys have clear expectations, if you guys decide to kind of go this your own route, average player improves by about 1.2 shots per year. And so the way that I make that assertion here, I'll just show you guys in kind of one little iteration. So we can see that there's 60 pages here, right? And that's just like all the junior golfers that are ranked. So let's just go to the middle, right? So we're gonna have to go bump all the way over here to 30. All right, boom. We're at 30 here. So let's just say dead center, got a scoring differential of 4.46. Also, if we click into this, what you're going to see here is the percentile. We're at 50%. We really want to know what that is. So you don't want to look at rank in the class because more kids, and so this is something you guys will see down here, if I can get it to scroll, more kids are going to enter the class over time. So since February, they've had another 800 kids get into the class. Now, granted, he's improved quite a bit, right? He's improved by about 4 shots, since February, which is awesome. Great. Now, is he still in a position to play Division I golf? Probably not. He might be able to squeak in Division III, but being a junior and being in that spot, even with that type of trajectory, it's still going to be really, really tough. And that's why I say it's like, if you're watching this and you can get in early, if your kid's like 11 or 12 or even 10, obviously it's going to be a lot easier for you because this progress is, actually matters, right? And so anyway, let's go year prior, just so you guys can kind of see the way I'm doing this math. So look at 2028, because we can't just look at like, hey, here's an exceptional case or here's a good case or whatever. So now we got to go to page 22, because there's 45 pages. 21 and 22. All right, cool. So we're just going to call this roughly middle. As you guys can see, we're pretty close to the 50th percentile here. And so this player is a scoring differential of 5.64. You guys can go back. I believe it was about 4.4 was the next year. As you guys can see, it's about 1.2 shots. I didn't pick these out. These are just like randomly done. But this is about what I see consistently, class over class, year over year. The average improvement is about 1.2 shots per year. And so when you guys are trying to model that out, that's just something to be aware of. That once again, at the beginning of this video, I said, do not plan to be the exception. If you're looking at that and saying, hey, we're doing what everyone else is doing, we're getting swing lessons every single week and, we're just kind of like doing our thing. Maybe we're, got a mindset coach or what have you. It's kind of what everybody else is doing, to be quite honest. And that's just something to be aware of. That don't plan to be the exception. Don't put your child in that position. So it's going to create a lot of stress for them. And above all, measure it. If you're in a position where you're like the kid that we just looked at, where, you guys are improving by 4 shots per year and you're not seeing any slowdown, keep doing what you're doing, keep sending it. Right. But if you're looking at it, you're like, hey, we're stalled out. Do not, I can't stress this enough. Do not just sit on your hands and just think, oh, it's going to work itself out. It does not. I promise you that. I've seen so much data. I've seen so many kids. It's just like, as soon as we get like all locked up, because it's just like, oh, we're not improving enough, therefore we're not going to like make any investments. That's when we'll lock up. Right. So anyway, once again, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave it a like, subscribe to the channel. If you want more help Again, application below, and I've got my whole tournament schedule framework. You guys can even get a one-on-one call with me if you guys want to add that on when you check out. So those are the two options for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully this cleared some stuff up for you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.